Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I haven't posted on here in a while, nor have I done videos in general in a while. But I'm gonna change that. I want to get back into Terraria a little bit. I don't know how much of dedicated series I'm going to do, considering you know how good I am at finishing them. But that's irrelevant in today's video, because we're going to be discussing my new series that I'm going to be doing. A complete and total guide, sort of, to the Calamity mod. The Calamity mod is one of my favorite mods, if not my favorite mod, and I've been playing it since 2017, so I'd say I have a basic knowledge of the mod, at least. I mean, come on. So this series will mainly consist of multiple parts, which I will split into different videos. I don't know how I'm going to split all of them, except for the first part, which is progression. The second part is going to be bosses, or at least a more in-depth boss guide. The third will be sort of a mixture of more miscellaneous videos on how I suggest you can make the game easier, or optimal ways I suggest you can progress through the game. I'm just going to be talking about everything during the progression, so there is going to be a difference. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about progression in pre-hard mode of the Calamity mod. Now you need to know a couple of things before watching the series, and I will go over this in every video. You need to know the basics of the vanilla game. I recommend you've played through the vanilla game at least once, considering, in my opinion, and I tell this to everybody, you should complete the vanilla game before you start adding content. I think it's a fair statement to make, considering if you want to add content to a game, you should at least know the content that you already have. But anyways, back to the video. So immediately as you spawn, you'll probably find some modded content immediately. You're going to have a starter bag, Iron Heart, and Revengeance. Revengeance is sort of an expert mode. If this is your first time playing the mod, I don't suggest you use this, but if you want to get the full experience of the mod after playing through it on expert mode, which I suggest you do, playing it on normal mode is kind of pointless, considering expert mode is sort of kind of nerfed. You want to play on expert mode for your first playthrough, and then Revengeance on your second. That is my suggestion. But usually you should just trash Revengeance and trash the Iron Heart. The Iron Heart, unless you're doing a challenge, you don't need it, but the Iron Heart basically makes it hardcore mode, but only if you're fighting a boss. So I mean, it's a unique challenge, but I'd say throw it out. When you open the bag, you get an assortment of gear, but also some modded items, which I'll go over right now. One of them is the Defiled Rune. Defiled Rune basically means your wings last shorter, I think, and you can also get critically hit by enemies, but rare items are more common. Another thing you're going to get is death. No, you're not going to die when you open the bag. I'm talking about an item. It's called death. It enables death mode, which can only be enabled in Revengeance mode. This is hard. It's the most difficult difficulty in the game, and after playing the mod for 3 years, I still have a lot of trouble on this. I have yet to complete a full death mode playthrough. So I'd suggest doing many playthroughs before doing death mode. Another thing you're going to get is, if you have a certain mod installed, the Calamity music box. This is basically just your run-of-the-mill music box, but instead of recording vanilla songs, it has a chance to record Calamity mods. Another thing you're going to immediately notice when you spawn in is Wolfram. Probably anyway. Sometimes you can have a hard time getting these things to show up, but I recommend you farm them on site. These things can give you these items called Wolfram shards. And what do I mean by these things? I'm talking about Wolfram slimes and Wolfram drone. Wolfram slimes are slimes, to put it simply. They look sort of different. They have something in them and they're a slightly different shade of green. Wolfram drones have slightly more health, but move a lot slower and they're a lot easier to kill. And they drop more shards, so you should definitely kill them at least. Wolfram shards can be used to make a multitude of items, including sets of armor, weapons, and tools. What you should use them on, however, is the weapons and armor. You can make a staff, a sword, throwing knives, and a bow with Wolfram. And these are very powerful at the very start of the game, so I suggest you make them. Now, you can also make sets of armor, and this is where I'm going to have to talk about something. Armor classes. There are multiple helmets for each set of armor, at least almost each set of armor. And they're good for every class. Now, if you know the basics of the vanilla game, you already know the run-of-the-mill classes: melee, ranged, magic, and summoner. But there's another class that takes the place of the throwing class and has been added by the Calamity mod, the rogue class. This has a couple of unique mechanics that I'm not really going to go into. You'll probably figure them out on your own if you play this class. Things like rogue stealth and special abilities with rogue weapons, etc. But what you basically need to know is that there are helmets for each class, giving unique boosts. And the next thing you probably want to do is go underground. The underground hasn't changed too much, but there's a couple things you're going to want to know. One of them is gem crawlers, which are enemies that you can kill, but they run away from you. They give you gems when you kill them, so when you find one with a decently valuable gem, you should probably chase it down and kill it. You can get some early game gems and even make some cool weapons like the crystalline or gem staffs if you're playing mage. Also, there are these things called shrines randomly scattered around the world. They contain special items, and these items can be very powerful in the early game and in the late game. Some of these include Luxor's Gift, an Angry Dog Mount, and more. Now underground, other than that, like I said before, it's pretty vanilla. There's not a lot that you can expect besides some custom enemies here and there, and yeah. Well, also, there is a biome in the underground desert, but I'm not going to talk about that until a little bit later in the video. So the first boss that you're going to want to fight that isn't vanilla, or that is modded, is probably the Desert Scourge, which is a worm-like enemy that spawns in the desert. Well, you have to spawn it, but it's in the desert. You can only fight it in the desert. This can be kind of formidable if you haven't learned its attack patterns and how it works, but my advice is just use a piercing weapon. Once you kill this boss, there will probably be a message in chat, something like, the desert is rumbling, or the desert sands, or so, you know what I mean. And what it means is that the biome that I referred to earlier has just become open. There's a biome in the very bottom of the underground desert called the Sunken Sea, and I recommend you spend a bit of time here. This biome opens up, and by opens up, I mean you can break blocks, fight enemies, and other enemies spawn. But this only happens once you kill the Desert Scourge. It's a biome flooded with water and valuables. You want to get these things called sea prisms and the prism shards that can be scattered all over the biome. And you want to find them, mine them up, and store them somewhere, and you can use them for crafting. What you want to also look for is this enemy called the Giant Clam. It's a mini-boss, and it's a little formidable, so make sure you have decent weapons before you fight it. Another thing that happens when you kill the Desert Scourge is you get an assortment of things from the treasure bag. And by that, I mean 4 very specific things. Victory shards, seashell, starfish, and coral. These can all be used to make Victide bars, and this is the next tier of armor and weapons. Very powerful, and I recommend use it up until Hive Mind and Perforators, which I'll also get to. Now from this point onward, the game progresses somewhat normally, minus the Crabulon fight, which is the next boss from the modded game. He gives you some really cool weapons, which can help you a lot early game. And yeah, that's pretty much it with this guy. What you want to do then is fight either the Hive Mind, which is Corruption, or the Perforators, which is Crimson. These guys can be kind of formidable, but once you learn their patterns, they're pretty easy. And you're gonna hear that a lot. Yeah, you just learn these guys, you take them out, and they give you some really cool weapons, but the main thing they do is they spawn this new ore underground called Aerialite. Now this ore is very important and can help you a lot, and it takes you through Skeletron as well. Basically, what this ore is a sort of sky-themed ore, and it spawns underground, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But what you want to do is you want to gather a bunch of this stuff up, chug a gravitation potion, go into space, get a bunch of clouds, rain clouds, sunplate bricks, and feathers. Lots of feathers. And then you can make a bunch of things. You can make a bunch of weapons and armor. Yes, another tier of armor. This mod adds a lot. So yeah, you want to make yourself a new set of armor, some new weapons, and just get a move on. Because now you're going to take out Skeletron. Skeletron is very formidable in Revengeance and Death mode. But other than that, he's just your run-of-the-mill Skeletron. Kill him, and then, well, you get some new cool stuff. Lots of new drops come available. You can go into the dungeon. Some new things become possible within the game, but nothing major really happens. You go into the dungeon, you can get a bunch of stuff. There's not a lot of changes to the dungeon, it's pretty normal. But what you're really going to want to get in the dungeon is a Shadow Key, because you're going to want to head to the Abyss. Now, as we all know, there are 2 oceans in the overworld. But in Calamity mod, one of them has become the Sulphurous Sea, a sort of, well, it used to look like P. I used to call it the P Ocean, but now it's it's more of a fizzy seltzer-like ocean. You want to go there, you're going to want to chug a Gills potion and a Flipper potion, and go down into a new hole that appeared in the sulfurous sea floor. You go down it, and you go down it some more, and you go down it some more until you find a bunch of chests in the ocean. That's literally all there is to this biome right now. So just loot as many chests as you can. When the screen gets darker, go home. There's nothing more for you down there. You can get a bunch of cool weapons. You can get a magic frog. You can get a fish gun. But yeah, other than that, there's not much to the Abyss in pre-hard mode. And then move on to the Slime God, which is the second to last boss in pre-hard mode, and the last modded boss. So what you're going to want to do with this guy, build long platforms. And I say platforms because you're going to want at least 2 rows. You run down the platform and you shoot him, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't really have much of a pattern that you need to learn. He's just very, very fast and very... and if you stay in one place for a long time, he can overwhelm you very quickly. So what you're going to want to do is just move around a lot. That's my advice. Anyway, once you kill him, he drops a lot of cool stuff, including Purified Gel, which gives us our next tier of weapons and armor. Stata Gel, at least the armor is called Stata Gel. I just call it that because it sounds cool. You can get a sword, you can get a yo-yo, you can get a gun, you can get a bow, you can get a pickaxe, you can get an axe, you can get all things. But you can also get your next tier of armor. I definitely recommend you get all of the things that you can with this that you want to use, because they are very powerful against the wall of flesh. And guess what? That's pretty much the end of modded pre-hard mode. There's not a lot else to it. If I forget anything else, I'm probably going to add that in. So, I shouldn't have forgotten anything. If I did, point it out in the comments and I'll address it next video, but I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. Once you fight the wall of flesh, hard mode begins, and that's what we're going to be covering in the next part of this guide. Yay. Oh yeah, also there's this biome in hell called the Hell Crag, and it's like, it doesn't really do anything until hard mode, but you can get some cool stuff if you fish there. Like a really cool ranged weapon. Yeah. There's not a lot of fishing stuff with the mod as of this recording. But that's probably the coolest, is that you can get some weapons from some biomes. But I'm not really going to cover them, considering they're not that important, and you probably won't use them a lot. But yeah, other than that, that's it for pre-hard mode. I'm going to talk about hard mode next video. I don't know when that's going to be, but yeah, this is a pre-hard mode guide to the Calamity mod. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified whenever a new video comes out. I have the whole day to myself, so maybe I'll upload it today. I don't know, but we'll see.